Mic check 1 2 1 2. I want to make sure we good this morning. Somebody type in the chat if they can hear me or not. Am I loud and clear or am I loud and clear? Y'all let me know if y'all can hear me in the chat real quick before we get started. Appreciate everybody for tapping in. Let me know if y'all can hear me in the chat. It sounds like my mic is good, but I just want to make sure. I want to make sure we're good this morning before we get started. Can y'all hear me? Can people hear me? I think we are good. Top of the clock, BJ. Hey, can anybody hear me? I just need to make sure people can hear me before I start talking, before we get into it today. Let me know. Somebody type in the chat. Mic check 1 2 1 2. We're gonna jump right into it. I think you guys can hear me. Looks like the audio is working on my side. Can you hear me? Nobody is typing they can hear me yet though. Good, Michael. Appreciate you, my brother. Appreciate you. Let's jump into it. What up, BJ? Appreciate you as well. Let's jump into it for today, man. We got nice little, I think it's 7 games on the card for today. I did a deep dive into like 4 of them. So we're going to take a deep dive into like the first 4. I do an evening show this evening and discuss the rest of them as well. But a couple plays that I made already. And like I said, I want to jump into it. But y'all know the vibes, man. Hit the like button for me if you can. Retweet the show, share the show, all that good stuff. And let's grind for today, man. Let's get back after the day. We're coming off another uh, positive day, another winning day, and that's what we here for, man. That's what we here for. So we'll jump right into it for today, man. Let's do it. Yesterday, if you watched the evening show, I gave out one more play, but I didn't add it because I forgot to send it to the members. The line had moved. It was Boston first half, which was another winner. But Toronto team total under 111.5. Not it wasn't even a sweaty bet yesterday. So that was an easy winner. Indiana first half minus the 5.5. Told you guys I thought they would smash Detroit, and they did. And then OKC first half, man, this team looked like a shell of themselves up until like mid fourth quarter. I'm not sure what's going on with OKC, but they did not look good yesterday. They couldn't score, they couldn't defend. Colin Sexton was getting up whatever he wanted. They had the other guy out there with the name I can't pronounce that was scoring left and right on him. So OKC first half was a loser. But it takes us even with the zero point 0.8 units, and if you got Houston, if you got Boston, then of course you made a little bit more money, of course. But that takes us still over, just that zero point 0.8 takes us over the 38 unit mark on the season. So we're definitely trending in the right direction. I think what's that 6-2 on the week. So let's keep it moving for this week, man. First game up, we got a good one. We got the Pelicans. We got the Magic. Game will be played in Orlando tonight. This line actually opened with the Pelicans laying 1.5 points. It might have even been one. Um, and the total opened at 210.5. You see money come in on the under, of course, which makes sense. Two really good defensive teams down to 208. And Pelicans are now 3-point favorites on most books. That it looks like that's consensus. So let's jump into it. First, let's look at the Pelicans. So you got this team coming off 1 day's rest, second straight road game. It is the first leg of a back-to-back. They play in Miami tomorrow against the Miami Heat, and they're coming off a double-digit win against the Brooklyn Nets just 2 days ago. Now, Pelicans have been hot, like we talked about, right? 8-2 straight up, 7-2-1 against the spread in their last 10 games, 5-1 straight up, 4-1-1 against the spread in their last six on the road since the All-Star break as well. In Orlando, same thing. Like, and I'll get into it, but Orlando, first game, 1 day's rest. I'm sorry, third straight home game of a 6-game homestand, so they haven't had to travel anywhere. They host Sacramento. But it's not tomorrow, so they don't have a nice little break after this game as well. Orlando 8-2 straight up and against the spread in their last 10 games. They're 4-0 straight up and against the spread in their last 4. 6-1 straight up and against the spread at home since the All-Star break. So this is probably going to be the game of the day. And I really wanted to take a deep dive into it. So let's start here. Orlando and as far as the head-to-head goes, Orlando typically smokes the Pelicans. I don't think this is something that I was aware of. Orlando's 8-2 straight up and against the spread in their last 10 matchups. Of course, this is the first meeting of the season this far. And when I took a deep dive into this game, the first thing that really jumped out to me was just the strength of schedule. The Pelicans, they haven't faced the most difficult schedule, but the Magic have really been playing against the cupcakes. So Pelicans get the strength of schedule nod. Magic faced 2 playoff teams this month in the month of March. They played the Knicks and they played the Pacers. Other than that, this team played the Pistons, the Hornets, the Wizards, the Nets, the Raptors, and they actually played the Hornets twice. So Pistons, Hornets twice, Wizards, Nets, Raptors. You can't give us so much credit. They've been beating up on them. I give them that. I do give them that. That's the Magic. Now the Pelicans, their schedule has also been easy, but at least they've had to play against the Pacers, the Sixers, the Cavs, and the Clippers in their last few games. So I think strength of scheduling now goes to Orlando, goes to the Pelicans, which means that some of Orlando's numbers might be slightly skewed. As far as the X's and O's in this game, over the past 2 weeks, I've been looking a lot into these past 2 week stats and past after the All-Star break. New Orleans been the better offensive team. They're eighth in points scored per 100 possessions, where Orlando is 19th. Orlando's also Orlando is the number two defensive team, but New Orleans is right behind them. New Orleans has been the third defensive team since the All-Star break. I'm sorry, over the last 2 weeks. The one big advantage I found for New Orleans, I think is going to really show in this game, is that Orlando continues to turn the ball over. Orlando's actually turned the ball over at the fourth highest rate, even against those poor defensive teams that I just mentioned to you guys over the last 2 weeks. New Orleans does a really good job of forcing turnovers. They're 11th in that department over the last 2 weeks. The Pelicans also been pushing pace over the last 2 weeks. They're fourth in fast break frequency and sixth in points scored in transition per possession, while Orlando is actually allowing the most fast break opportunities. So Orlando should, I think the Pelicans, scrap up on defense. They just need to rebound the basketball. We know Orlando is a really good rebounding team. Um, so I think Pelicans should be able to get out in transition and run, especially off the turnovers that they're able to create in Orlando tonight. And I looked at this as well from the Orlando offensive side. They're not really shooting the ball well from anywhere. I went through and kind of looked at all their shot zones. They're attempting the second most shots at the rim over the past 2 weeks, but they're converting at the 10th lowest rate. So they haven't really been able to, while they continue to get to the paint, they haven't really been making a lot of shots there. They're also shooting the third most corner threes, but they're just making 37%, which is about 18th. In Orlando, uh, I'm sorry. New Orleans is actually allowing teams to shoot. They're allowing teams to shoot their shot, but they're not making it at a really high rate. So, all in all, I think strength of schedule was the biggest thing that jumped out to me. I did take the Pelicans. I gave it out last night. I took them I took them on the money line, minus 120 last night. I think it was up to minus one. I took it on Bet365 at minus 120 because Bet365. If you guys do have access to the sports book, if I'm playing a money line, I typically like to play it there because if the team goes up by 20, you automatically get the win. Even if the Magic were to come back and win this game, you would get the win. I see people in the chat talking about Pell's first half. No way I could talk you off of that. They've been elite in the first half. I think this would be a really good step up game. But if I'm ranking these two teams, the Pelicans have to be slightly better than the Magic, in my opinion. So Pelicans money line for me is what I gave out to the members last night, minus 120. I do think that they have. I don't think it's going to be easy. Like I don't want people to think it's going to be easy, but I do think the Pelicans are the better team. They just got to, protect the rim. You need Valanciunas. You need, Larry Nash Jr. You need Zion to go down there and not just protect the rim, but to get the rebounds as well. Orlando is no pushover. They're no slouch, but they have been playing a much easier schedule. So that's the first game in a nutshell for you guys. Pelicans for me. As far as the total, New Orleans is 8-2 to the under in their last 10. Orlando 8-2 to the under in their last 10. Pelicans 5-1 to the under on the road since the All-Star break. And Orlando 5-1 to the under at home since the All-Star break. But this total to me seems a tad bit too low. 210 was what it was at. I was like, yeah, I think I'll chill there. So it's dropped to 208.5. I think both of these team totals are like 105 and 103 or something like that. I'm just not wanting to get involved with the number being so low, but I think I would still lean towards the under. The Pelicans can really come in here and lock this Orlando team up, especially if they take away the rebound opportunities that Orlando likes to get in this one. So those are my thoughts. Give me the Pellies though. Pellies, uh, minus 120 on the money line. Like I said, I got it last night. Next game up, we got the Kings. They'll be in DC taking on the Washington Wizards. This line was at 10.5 last night. I think it's where it opened, and money coming in on the Kings. They're up to 11-point favorites now, even on the second leg of a back-to-back. Kevin Herter didn't play, and the total has come down. It was at 239 last night. It's down to 237. So Kevin Herter didn't play in that game in Toronto last night. His status for tonight is unknown. This is the second leg of a back-to-back for Sacramento. Keegan Murray was actually the only starter who played 30 minutes last night. I did go in and look at that. So all the other starters played less than 30 minutes. They blew out Toronto. So players didn't need to play as much. It is the second straight road game of a 3-game road trip for Sacramento, but it's cupcakes, man, on this road trip. The Kings, 6-5 straight up, 4-7 against the spread on the second leg of a back-to-back game. They are third best offensive rebounding team over the last 2 weeks, and Washington's been giving up a ton of rebounds uh, over the last 2 weeks as well. I mean, over the whole season, honestly, but last 2 weeks they've really been getting out rebounded, especially with Rashad Holmes being in and out of the lineup. No Marvin Bagley. So I looked. So on the Washington side, you got Kuzma, who comes off the injury report. This is the big one for me. Tyus Jones still remains out. He's not going to play in this game. Rashawn Holmes listed as questionable. Denny Avdi also listed as questionable, and Landry Shamet will remain out. And of course, Kumbawale is also done for the rest of the season on the Washington side as well. So they'll still be pretty depleted, which is why I think you got a road team laying 10 points on the second leg of a back-to-back. So real quick, I had looked into that too. I wanted to give you guys that trend because it was actually a really strong trend. If people wanted to play the Kings in this spot, I didn't play the Kings, but if you wanted to play the Kings, one thing I looked into was I looked at road favorites, unrested road favorites, laying double digits after the All-Star break. As far as the database goes back, it looks like 2000, probably 1996. These teams do well, 68 and 6 straight up, 49, 21, and 1 against the spread. That's 67% says to just lay the points because the line is high for a reason. And these teams have been covering. They've really, really been covering. So that says the Kings win the game by double digits again. I'm not into laying double digits with a team on the second leg of a back-to-back. However, if you wanted to do it, that was some support for you there. Like I said, road favorites on the second leg of a back-to-back laying double digits. They land them double digits for a reason. 49, 24, and 1, 67% in the Killer Sports database. But back to this game, looking at Washington, they're coming off 1 day's rest. It's a third straight home game of a 4-game home stand. They are 2-8 straight up against and against the spread in their last 10. They're 0-3 straight up and against the spread without Tyus Jones in the lineup, with losses by 29 to the Bulls, 26 to the Celtics, and 23 to the Rockets. Also, just 1-4 against the spread in their last 5 when they're playing an unrested opponent. So they don't even take advantage of the opponent. So I guess we're supposed to just lay the points with Sacramento because even if Washington has the rest advantage and their opponent is playing unrested, like I said, just 1-4 against the spread there. From an X's and O's perspective, the only place that the Wizards have been efficient from over the last 2 weeks is at the rim. They're 8th in frequency, 11th in accuracy over the last 2 weeks. Sacramento, 4th in rim frequency as far as on the defensive end. They're limiting those attempts, and they're 11th in opponent accuracy as well over the last 2 weeks. So a lot of those paint points that Washington gets probably won't be there today. Washington also 7th in transition frequency, but you got a Sacramento team that's 6th in limiting opponent frequency. And this was something that we talked about yesterday in their game in Toronto. We know Toronto likes to get out and run the pace as well. Sacramento does a really good job of not letting teams get out. I mean, they're young. And I think that that's the way I chose to play the game. I took Washington team total under 113.5, just solely based on those two things. First of all, you got a Washington team that really struggled to score. They're averaging about 105 points in their last 3 games without Tyus Jones in the lineup. And then, like I said, what do they like to score? They typically get a lot of points in transition. Sacramento doesn't give up a lot of points in transition, and they get a lot of points at the rim. And Sacramento has been, like I said, top 11 in opponent accuracy and top 8 in opponent frequency at the rim. So Sacramento also 19, 13, and 2 to the under on the season when they're in road games, 4-1 to the under, playing on the second leg of a back-to-back. And these were two trends that I thought was pretty interesting as well. Unrested double-digit favorites this season, 5-0 to the under. Since 2019, those teams are 14-7 to the under. That's 66%. Sacramento has also been the 4th-rated defensive team over the last 2 weeks and 6th in opponent effective field goal percentage. So this was a game that I did like. This was actually the first play that I gave out again last night, was that Washington team total under 113.5. But right before I got on, the best number that you could get was still 113.5, and you get a better number because I played it at minus 120 on DraftKings last night, thinking that it would move. Hasn't really moved a lot. It's minus 115, so you get a better number than me on Bet365 right now if you guys are interested. But give me the Wizards playing their team total under. Sacramento on the road, play a little bit better defense. They cashed for us last night. Hopefully they do it again tonight. Let's keep it. I also considered the under as well for the full game, under 239, but that Wizards defense is a little too scary for me. I do think the full game goes under, though. Let's jump into the next game that I really had a chance to dive into, and that'll be the Chicago Bulls and the Houston Rockets. So this line actually opened with Chicago with the Rockets laying 2.5 points as home favorites. Now you see them as 3.5 point home favorites, and this total opened at 213. It's all the way up to 217.5. This is one that's on my short list because I think I'm gonna end up making this play. I haven't made it yet, and I probably should go ahead and get involved. So let's start here. So Chicago, you got Alex Caruso and Kobe White listed as questionable in this game. I will say Kobe White did go through full practice yesterday, so he'll probably be out there and available on the team is what I would guess, but not 100% sure yet. Caruso's been questionable for a while. He's almost like LeBron James at this point. So you get a Bulls team coming off 2 days rest. They do have the rest advantage by a day. First road game after 3 straight home games. They did have back-to-back wins against the Portland Trailblazers and the Washington Wizards. They covered against Washington, failed to cover against Portland. On the Houston side, no Cam Whitmore, of course, no Sengun, Tari Eason. Those guys are all remain out. 1 day's rest for Houston. First home game of a 3-game home stand. And this team's the hottest team in the league right now. They're 8-2 straight up, 9-1 against the spread in their last 10 games. You also get a revenge game here. Houston is they did lose to Chicago. Chicago beat them 124-119 in overtime in Chicago back on January the 10th. Chicago was laying 4 in that game, and that game went over to 216. I'll talk a little bit more about the total, but the last 4 totals have gone to the over. I think if you want Houston, I was thinking last night that if you wanted Houston, you probably get a better number if Kobe White got ruled in. And maybe that's the case. Like I said, he is listed as questionable, and I think he's a big part of the Chicago Bulls offense, of course. This was a game I took a deep dive into, so I want to share some numbers with you guys. Houston has been much better offensively and defensively. They're number 3 in points scored per 100 possessions over the last 2 weeks, 8th in effective field goal percentage. They're the best team in not turning the ball over that time frame as well. And you got a Bulls team. I always talk about them playing fake defense, man. 25th in opponent's points scored, opponent points allowed per 100 possessions over the last 2 weeks, 22nd in opponent effective field goal percentage and turnover percentage. So they're not turning the ball. They're not, forcing a lot of turnovers. And they're allowing the second most offensive rebounds over the last 2 weeks. So this lines up for a nice Houston spot. Like I said, they do have the rest disadvantage. Chicago's offense, middle of the pack in scoring. They are protecting the ball at the 9th best rate, and they're shooting a ton of free throws, the 9th highest free throw rate over the last 2 weeks. But Houston hasn't done too bad of a job of not fouling. So you get the revenge factor that I talked about. The Houston Rockets are 8-2 straight up, 6-3 against the spread, revenge and losses this season at home. And then you match the two teams up on the court. The Rockets have a ton of matchup advantages in this game. So I'll go through a few of them. But Houston, they have a major advantage at the rim. Last 2 weeks, they're attempting the 11th most shots at the rim, and they're shooting the 3rd highest percentage at the rim as well. Chicago struggling to protect the paint. They're allowing teams to take the 6th most shots at the rim, and teams are converting at the 2nd highest percentage, which puts Chicago at bottom 2 at defending the paint over the last 2 weeks. Houston, another advantage, the mid-range shot. They're attempting the 8th most long mid-range shots and converting at the 8th highest percentage. So top 10 in both of those categories. Chicago's defense has allowed the 15th most attempts, so middle of the pack. But teams are shooting about 50% against them over the last 2 weeks, which actually puts them at a bottom 5 mid-range defense over the last 2 weeks. And Houston shooting a lot of shots there. Also, the above the break 3. This is another area where Houston has the major advantage, in my opinion. They shot the 13th most shots there, and they're shooting almost 39%, which puts them top 5 over the last 2 weeks. Chicago is allowing teams to shoot almost 40%, which ranks them bottom 3 in that position as well. So a lot of matchup advantages at the rim, in the mid range, above the break 3. And the last one I'll talk about is Houston, also running the break. The 10th in highest transition rate, like getting out and running fast break over the last 2 weeks. They've really been pushing the pace without Sengun. And teams have, really, really pushed the pace against Chicago. And they don't play. I think it's because nobody wants to play against Chicago in their set defense in the half court. You look at the Bulls on the opposite side, they're second. Teams are running the fast break against the Bulls at the 2nd highest rate. Chicago ranks bottom 10 in opponent points scored in transition per 100 possessions and opponent points per play per 100 possessions. So I think all of that, to me, I know I said a lot, but all of that to me screams Rockets team total over. This number open, like I said, at 213. It's up to 214 now. So that total for the Rockets has gone up. I think it opened at 108.5. It's up to 110.5 now. or 109.5 and up to 110.5. Chicago 4-0 to the over in their last 4 games. Houston 3-0 to the over in their last 3 games. Chicago's given up 110 points in 7 of their last 11 games this month. Houston, they're over the 110.5, which is their team total right now, in 8 of their last 9 games in the month of March. I don't think the market is quite adjusted yet. So that would be the play in this game. Houston team total over 110.5, widely available, no juice on it at all either. I think that's the best play in this game is probably staying away from the spread. I don't like the Rockets as much because they're at the rest disadvantage, but I do think that they could cover the small number. And I also think that if I had to play the game, it would be their team total over. All right, let's keep it pushing. I'll get through these. These were the last 3 games were the ones that I didn't take too deep of a dive into, but we'll get through them real quick. So we got Brooklyn and Milwaukee. This line is at 9. It opened at 9. Total come up just a tad bit. It was at 222.5 up to 222.5 now. So for Brooklyn, you got Nicholas Claxton listed as questionable with an illness. Dorian Finney-Smith is going to miss this game, so they're going to be shorthanded. 1 day's rest. It's the 4th game in 6 nights for them. First game of at least a 4-game road trip after a one-off home game, and they had 6 road games before this. So a terrible spot again for the Brooklyn Nets. But you also got, the Bucks on the second leg of a back-to-back with travel from Boston last night. Giannis' status is up in the air. Chris Middleton most likely not going to play on the second leg of a back-to-back. This Brooklyn team has been bad. 3-7 straight up and against the spread in their last 10. 0-4 straight up and against the spread in their last 4. Head-to-head, Milwaukee has dominated the matchup. They've won 8 of the last 10. And the last 4 straight, including both games this season. The Bucks did cover. The Nets did cover the last one. I think they were laying 10. So this is a game, like I said, I'm not too interested in it. But I honestly, I still think it'd be Bucks or nothing. The one thing that the Nets do have to their advantage is that they do shoot a ton of threes and they could potentially get hot. I talked about it yesterday in that Boston game when I did the both shows. That above the break 3 is what the Bucks really, really struggled to defend over the last 2 weeks. And you see Boston really, really take advantage of them in the first half. So the Nets get hot from 3 maybe, but I always tell you guys, the Nets they're the definition of an insanity team. They just continue to shoot threes and not be able to make them. That's all they really want to do. So like I said, I won't take a long time on that game. No play for me at all. Next game up, you got another game with no play for me. You got the Jazz and the Mavs. Mavs laying 13.5 as home favorites. Total 238.5 right now. So this is the first with one of those little back-to-back head-to-head series. These 2 teams play again in Utah on Monday. So both of these teams have a nice little break because they get Friday, Saturday, and Sunday off. For Utah, we need to know the status of Lauri Markkanen, Jordan Clarkson. Of course, they didn't play yesterday in that game at OKC. On the Dallas side, Jalen Green is also listed as out. He'll miss this game. So Utah's second leg of a back-to-back, second straight road game is also a terrible travel spot. 5th game in 7 nights for them. And travel from OKC, which isn't that far, but they did have to travel last night. Dallas team off 1 day's rest. They had a short trip to San Antonio where they didn't cover, but they did win the game. Dallas is one of those teams where you're watching the trends. They typically play a little bit better defense at home. On the road, it's like they don't care about defense. They continue to fly over on the road, even though the last game did go under, but the first half was definitely trending towards the over against the San Antonio Spurs. So this was a game that, 14 is a big, big number. I'm not sure how motivated Dallas is going to be in this spot, playing against a Utah team that, is not going to potentially not have Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson. Maybe a Dallas Mavericks team total over, maybe, is what I would think. I know that the number is going to be super high. What is it, 238? So that's 117. Add 7 to that. About 124.5 should be that Dallas Mavericks team total. They should be able to get whatever it is that they want. Utah could potentially run out of gas in this spot. Like I said, 5th game in 7 nights, could be shorthanded without Lauri Markkanen and Jordan Clarkson. But like I said, not a game that I chose to play. Last game on the board for today, second to last game, we got the Knicks. We got the Denver Nuggets. OG Anunoby listed as questionable for the Knicks. I'm not sure if he's going to play. This was a game I didn't dive too deep into. I'll just tell you guys that it is a major, major revenge spot. The Knicks smoked the Denver Nuggets earlier this season. That game in New York, they beat them 122-84. You get a Denver team off 1 day's rest, first game back home off a 4-game road trip, and the opposite for the Knicks, 2 days rest. But the last game of a 4-game road trip, they actually 4-0 straight up, 3-0-1 against the spread in their last 4 games as well. I got to dive a little bit more into this one, man. I think I want to take the under, honestly. Knicks have been the best defensive team over the last 2 weeks. Denver coming back home could be potentially a flat spot, but I think that they'll want to get their revenge. I can see the Knicks really struggling to score, but I'm also not willing to. I don't want to lay 9.5 with Denver right now. Not the way that they looked in that game against the Timberwolves just 2 nights ago when they just literally couldn't make a shot. And now you get a Knicks team that's more rested than them. I think it'd be Knicks a pass for me, man. But like I said, major revenge spot for Denver. I got to dive a little bit deeper into this one, though, if I'm being honest with you guys. Last game, we got the Hawks and the Suns. Game will be played in Phoenix tonight. Hawks do have the rest advantage here, but Atlanta, no Jalen Johnson, man. That's big for them. So 2 days of rest for them, but Jalen Johnson's been ruled out. Final game of a 4-game road trip for them. Atlanta, I looked into this. I didn't look too much into the game, but Atlanta, 5-12 straight up, 3-14 against the spread without Jalen Johnson this season. 4-8 straight up, and 3-9 against the spread in road games without him as well. He means that much to the spread. When you think about, does Phoenix have a letdown because they played so well against Philly last night and covered that game? And I talked about them. It was the money that I left on the table with that Phoenix first half. I said that they were going to be motivated after giving up, 80 points in the first half against the Brooklyn Nets. I'm sorry, against the Phoenix, the Milwaukee Bucks on Sunday. And they were. That's exactly what happened. So I'm not sure what to do with this game. You got a big number for Phoenix. Atlanta, probably runs out of gas. I think Phoenix, I need to look a little bit more into their second leg of back-to-back games, see how well they play. I want to read some beat reporter stuff as well and kind of take a deeper dive. So I don't have any play in this game either, but I will be back to do an evening show at 5 p.m. So we'll talk about those games then. These are the plays that I did make today. Toronto. This is Toronto, Washington. Sorry about that. Toronto is definitely not supposed to be up there. It's Washington, team total under 113.5. Sacramento keeping it going tonight. Washington without Tyus Jones. And then the Pelicans, I played them on the money line minus 120. Strongly considering, like I said, I'm probably going to add it. Houston team total over 110.5. If you guys join late, go back and check out that breakdown. I'll put the chapters up for you guys. And let's have a great day, man. I appreciate everybody for tapping in. Those are the plays that I made. These are the resources that I use to handicap the game as always. If you're interested, check them out. If you got questions about them, shoot me a DM on Twitter at ChrisBeCappinn, 2 P's, 2 N's. Help you out as much as I can there. That's what I got for you, man. Best of luck on all your action today. If you've been watching the whole entire show and you thought it was helpful, do me a favor, hit the like button for me, subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Bet responsibly. Link for all my plays when I do make them is in the description as well. Appreciate all the new members for joining. Bet responsibly. Best of luck. I'll catch you guys at 5 p.m. Eastern. And I'm out, man. Y'all have a great day. Catch you guys at 5.